Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Just Daf It, Daf Yomi Shir. We're learning the Nedarim, Daf Gimel number 3 today. I got my sunglasses on. Come on, tell me, I'm not the coolest Maggid Shir in the world. I take a Neder. I'm taking a Neder. If I say a Neder that I'm the coolest guy in the world, I think people are going to get turned off. Who is this guy? He's a crazy guy. So I will just I'm asserting that I'm the coolest guy in the world, and I'll take a Neder that it says Ray-Ban on these glasses. If you can see closely, very hard to tell, but it does say Ray-Ban on the glasses. I don't know if you get a good glimpse, but it says Ray-Ban. I took the Neder. That I'm pretty confident that's not a problem. So we got the Ray-Ban sunglasses. Of course, I promised you a little entertainment before the shir. So you know what? Let's start the shir with the sunglasses on. Should be fun. I got these for like 300 shekel. Yeah, I got it for me. I don't know if that's a fair price for them. I think I got a good deal. But the guy who got it gets it cheap, so we'll be able to give me a good deal on them. I think they're pretty cool. I look smooth in them, of course. There's no other Maggid Shir like this in the world. Guaranteed. Let's get started. You can't learn Gemara with glasses. I'll wear the sunglasses like this. It's more fun. Alright, let's get started. Yeah, why not? You know, really, I forgot to take the sunglasses off. When I go to pick up my kids, I had to leave here 20 minutes to go to pick up my kids. So, my sunglasses outside. It's sunny outside. It's still hot here in Israel, even towards the end of October. But got to take them off. So, at least I have material for the shir today. Let's get started at the top of Gimel and Aleph. The third line, in a different answer, we're trying to give a different answer. Why the Mishnah, when it talks about kinuyim, and then it talks about yados, which are partial Nedarim, a half expression in Nedarim, that take effect. Why did it start immediately going into yados? It should have started with kinuyim, which is the first topic we talked about. Yados, idea asking midrasha. We're going to see in a second where we learn the concept that yados are effective. Right? They come from a drasha in Chazal, an extra word in the Torah. Tells you, you know, we expound upon it to learn that there is a concept of yados. Miftach pasach mefarish lahum bereisha, right? We're going to see kinuyim are basically just translating non-Jewish words into Jewish words. That makes more sense. It's all the bigger chiddush we talked about first. A drasha is not so pashut. So the Gemara says, "V'liftach hadim b'reisha." Why did the Mishnah start? Instead of call kinuyim nedarim nedarim, call yados nedarim nedarim. Why did it start calling? If that's the expression, that's the halacha we want to talk more about. Let's talk about that first. So the Gemara says, "V'liftach patal kinuyim d'oraisa b'reisha." First, we started talking about kinuyim, which there's more validity on a level d'oraisa, even though drush is also d'oraisa, but it's not as clear cut, right? Kinuyim, it's a svara. It makes sense to me d'oraisa. The Hadar and Farish Yados asking the Midrash, and then it explains Yados, which we wouldn't necessarily conclude logically, but we know because the Torah expounds in extra words that we know that they count as Nedarim. That makes sense. We're going to have Machlokas and Daf Yud between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. You say Kinui and Lashon Nachrim, they're just non-Jewish English terms or Aramaic terms, and the Chachamim said these are also, we can translate Nedarim. They don't have to be said Daka in Hebrew. They can be said also in English or Aramaic. That makes sense. There's an that says these are not real languages. It's really in the concept of kinuyim. They just made up words, konam, koneach, kones, we'll see on Daf Yud, that they made up. So it's only in the concept of kinuyim. Ma'ikal and Meimah, what are you going to say? You can't give the same answer. The Gemara says, yados, right? We already fixed up the Mishnah. The Mishnah doesn't explicitly say anything about yados. We said chasuri mechshar, it's missing words. So once we're going to say it's missing words, akdim nami v'tani yados. So once we're fixing it up, okay. So say kinuye yados, yados nedarim nedarim, and then say kinuye nedarim nedarim. We'll replace it. Tani yados, call yados nedarim nedarim, call kinuye nedarim nedarim. That's how we elohen yados. Omer lechavero elohen kinuye. And what's kinuye? Konam konach konas. Meaning the Mishnah would continue with the next Mishnah. We'll see on Daf 10, Daf Yud. So the Gemara goes back. Yados heicha ksiv. Where do we know Yados from? Where is it? Drasha midaraisa. Where is it from? It's from a pasuk. Ishki afi lindar neder nazir hazil. Hashem is talking about in the parsha of Parshas Nasa, where it introduces the concept of Nazirus. So it says, Ishki after lindor neder nazir lahazir laHashem. V'tanya nazir lahazir lasos kinui naziros kinaziros. It's a double lashon. A nazir makes a naziros. Why did it say nazir makes naziros? If he's a nazir, presumably he made a contract of naziros. He said he wanted to be a nazir. Why does it say a second lashon? Lasos kinui naziros kinaziros. To tell me two things. One, that kinui naziros are naziros. If I say a lashon which is not exactly Hebrew, nazik, naziach, we'll see on Daf Yud, kinuyim are like treated as full naziros. The yados naziros kinaziros. We also learned the second halacha that yados naziros are kinaziros. Now the Ran takes out the words kinaziros because that's not a drasha. The Gemara says it's a svara midal raisa. According to Rabbi Yochanan, it says it's a lashon midal raisa, a lashon nachrim. So he takes out the word. I'm going to explain why I would keep this in the Gemara. The Russian Tosfos acknowledge you do keep it in the Gemara, but it was just as agam orcha. It really is not meant to be literally be in the brisa. I am going to give a reason why it should be in the brisa, which makes sense because it's in the Gemara. That's only talking about a nazir. A nazir when he pledges to be a nazir. Nedarim minayin. How do you know a neder? When he asks her something on himself, how do you know it applies? Yados nedarim to nedarim. Now remember, ishki af lindor neder nazir lahazir laHashem. The pasuk starts off lindor neder and then it compares it nazir lahazir laHashem. Makish naziros and nedarim. It connects naziros and nedarim and naziros. Man naziros asav yados naziros kanaziros. Just like we learned the double lashon nazir lahazir, right? Yados naziros are like naziros. Af nedarim asav yados nedarim kanadarim. Therefore, you learn yados apply by nedarim also. Man nedarim over bal yachel bal ta'achar. We're going to learn more halachas out of the connection, the hekesh between the two. By nedarim, it says in the Parshas Matos, you're over bal yachel dvaro. If you make a neder, you don't keep it. You violate bal yachel o yachel dvaro. You shouldn't make your words chulin. You shouldn't make your words meaningless. If you take a neder, you have to keep it. Bal ta'achar. Also, a neder, a korban, right? When you make a neder, I'm going to bring a korban to the Beis HaMikdash. You have, the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah states, you have 3 regalim to bring your korban. If you don't bring it, you're over the violation of Baal Ta'achar. Often Naziros over the Baal Yachel, Baal Ta'achar. So to a Naziros, if you don't keep your Naziros, you violate your Naziros, you drink wine, or you're Mitami L'Mesim, or you cut your hair, so also you violate Baal Yachel Naziros. So Baal Ta'achar also applies to Naziros. We'll see exactly how Baal Ta'achar, the Gemara is going to ask how that could apply to Naziros. It doesn't seemingly make sense. But my Nedarim, and just like we'll learn more things from this hakish, my Nedarim, I've made for Nidre Bito, but only for Nidre Ishto. Just like in Parshas Matos, the father is in charge of annulling his daughter's vows and his wife's vows. Ish af naziros, I made for naziros bito, I made for naziros ish. If you have your daughter, she's fed up with social media. She's into making naziros, so the father can annul her naziros, and he also can annul the naziros of his wife. His wife wants to be a nazir. She doesn't like wine. She had enough champagne. She had too much champagne. My shagam naziros achsiv nazir lahazir. Why by Naziros it says Nazir Lahazir and Darim Nami Aksiv Lindar Neder? Why do I have to learn out Yados and Darim Kendar from a Hekish? It says a double Lashon by Nedarim itself. It says Lindar Neder. Because of Neder Lindor, because of Nazir Lahazir. Nadar Lindor means it says a noun first. Neder, a noun. Lindor, 2 verb afterward. Like it says Nazir, a noun, and then a verb, Kedikamrit, right? That's right, a strange expression. He's a nazir, so now he's making a nazir. That is an extra lashon. But here it says lo sarach hakesh. Hashik say lindar neder. Lindar neder is just a way of saying a verb. I made a neder. Lindar, the verb comes first to make a neder. The verb comes before the noun. Dibra tarak lashon neder. That's the way people speak, right? I'm making a vow. Lindar neder, right? It's not, special to expound upon. So it's a machlokas. Do we give credibility that we say the Torah would talk like human beings talk? Normally the Torah wouldn't mince words. The Torah doesn't talk like human expression. And if it says an extra word, a double word, it's conspicuous and we have to make a drasha. Highlander neder mayavile. What do you do with the pasuk? Darishle lasos yados and daram. So the Gemara concedes, yes, if we don't say the Torah speaks as succinctly as possible, as concisely as possible. So, yes, we'd have to learn Lindar Neder, there's a double lashon, to include Yados like Nedarim. Makish Naziros and Nedarim. Still, the pasuk compares Naziros and Nedarim. So we'd learn out Nazir Lahazir, Makish Naziros and Nedarim. Nazir Lahazir, Darishle, like all the things we learned, right? Bal Yachel and the father being Mayfair, Nazirus, and the Nedarim of his wife and his daughter. Nazir Hazir Darish, what do you do with the first part of the pasuk? Right? You don't need to tell me Yados Nazirus and Nazirus because I learned the Hekish from the Nedarim. Darish Malamed, on top of Gimel and Beis, and Nazirus Chal, and Nazirus. Person says, I'm going to be a Nazir, and then 10 seconds later, he's going to be a Nazir again. Right? It's Machlokas, we'll see whether the second Nazirus is Chal, because right now you can't be a Nazirus twice at the same time. So, the Chiddush is that, yes, when you said it twice, Nazir Chal and Nazirus, yes, the first Nazirus, we're going to learn a regular Nazirus, we don't specify, it's a Nazirus for 30 days. So after 30 days are over, the second Nazirus is Chal, and really Yasser 60 days. According to the person who says that the Torah speaks the way people do, right? And therefore, we couldn't darshan lindar neder teach me yadav. We'd have to learn that from Nazir lahazir. Shenazirus chal and Nazirus minol. Where do we know that from? Right? We don't have now an extra pasuk Nazir lahazir to tell me Nazirus chal and Nazirus. So whereas aniches feel like one damar in Nazirus chal and Nazirus, it would make sense if the author of the Brisa held it's a machlokas whether if I say I'm a Nazir and then 10 seconds later I'm a Nazir again, maybe it's not chal. You can't have like when you're learning shvua chal shvua. I think a shvua. I'm not going to eat a piece of roast beef, and then I think another shvua, I'm not going to eat a roast beef, so it's not chal, because ain't shvua chal shvua, it's the same shvua. You have to add something to your shvua. You have to say, I'm not going to eat roast beef and corned beef, then it would be chal. That would be Isser Mosif. El Yisrael, like Madam Nazirus chal and Nazirus, if you hold it, Nazirus chal and Nazirus minalde, where do you know it from? Name Makra, so the Gemara answers, Name Makra Lizor, should Nazir Lizor. Lizor is a more simple expression. Lahazir is more in action. Nazir lahazir, he's actively taking the judgment on himself. Nazir lizar means he just let the words out of his mouth. Nazir lizar, my lahazir. What is this extra lashon lahazir, where it specifies more intent, right? That I specifically premeditated, want to have a nazirus. Shmas min atarte. So you learn two things from that. Number one, you learn yadas nazirus k'nazirus and kinui nazirus k'nazirus, and secondly, you learn nazirus chal and nazirus, which I'm going to say nazirus. I'm going to explain nazirus chal and nazirus is exactly the same limud as kinuye nazirus kinazirus. So those two limudim go together. That's why the Brisa says kinuye nazirus kinazirus. And the second limud is for yadas nazirus kinazirus. Shvas min atarta, you learn two things. Rava Amri, and Eretz Yisrael said, "Eis tan the mafik leil yados min lindar neder." There's one Tana that learns the concept of the yados from the double language lindar neder. We don't assume Dibur Torah Kloshim and Yadam. Eis tan the mafik leil. We have a new source, a third source. Kol hayos pivyasa. This is a pasuk by taking a neder, bringing a korban. Anything that comes out of your mouth, you have to do. Right? There's an essay, Mrs. essay by neder. So therefore, you learn out that anything, kol yosim, even if it's a partial language, you might think it's not a valid neder. Nonetheless, it counts as a neder. Amar Amar, we previously said on Daf Gimel and Aleph, man nedarim over bal yachal bal ta'acher. Let's analyze the Brisa. The Bishlam bal yachal, the nedarim mishkakas law. How do you find bal yachal? No, Amar kikar zu ochel. He said, I'm going to eat this kikar. And velo achla, and he didn't eat it. Ora mishum bal yachal dvaro. He violates bal yachal dvaro. The Rishonim and the Achorim have a big question over here, meaning normally this is the case of shvua. The difference between a shvua and a neder. Neder is I'm going to ask for something myself. Shvua is there's no normally concept of neder, but kum ve'esei. I'm going to do something. That's not a neder, right? Nedarim mitzvah, maybe there is. Like I said, I made a neder yesterday. I'm going to finish that base, and I did it. Maybe by Nedarim mitzvah, yes, but this is not a Nedarim mitzvah. It shouldn't be chal. We'll have to talk about it at a different time. Ela bal yachal and nazir seichem mishkach. Where's bal yachal? Came with the amar harini nazir. How do you accept nazir upon yourself? You say I'm a nazir, right? Once you're a nazir, havale nazir. So if you violated the nazir's achal, if you ate grapes, kam leva bal yoichal shasa. If you drank wine, kam leva bal yishta. It says specifically by nazirs, you're not to eat, not to drink. You don't violate your nazirs. You don't violate the words of taking the acceptance upon nazirs upon yourself. You violate the violations of being a nazir. I'm a rav, a lav, love b'shnayim. Really, even though the Torah says don't eat and don't drink wine and grapes, nonetheless, here the Tana is telling you that when you do that, you violate not just the Isra bal Yachal Yisha, you also violate the Isra bal Yachal. You made the words of your Naziros chul, and you made them non-holy. Baal ta'acher Nazir is hechim mishkachas. How do you find Baal ta'acher? Neder applies by a korban. I have 3 regalim. I have, let's say, a year to bring my korban. So based in English, what is Baal ta'acher than Naziros? Once you say you're a Nazir, you're a Nazir. There's no Baal ta'acher anymore. And if you don't say you're Nazir, so then why is there Baal ta'acher? And Shas, came with the Amar already Nazir. Once you're already Nazir, Havalei Nazir is automatically Nazir. It's not Baltaka. You're already Nazir. Achal Kamli Bal Yochal Ba'omer. And once you eat, you're over Bal Yochal, not delaying your Nazirus. The Gemara says Ba'omer, when you take a specific type of Nazirus, you say K'she'ertza Ehi Nazir. I say when I want to decide to be a Nazir, I will be a Nazir. V Amar, the Gemara challenges V Amar K'she'ertza Leika Baltaka. If he says She'ertza when I want to, there's no Baal Ta'akar, because it's up to him when he decides. He didn't promise I'll take it within 12 months. He said when I want to. So when he wants to, he can consider. There's no Baal Ta'akar, and there's no time limit. Amar Rava can go into Amar Loi Pater Min Ha'olam An Shein Nazir. He says, I must be a Nazir before I leave this world, before I die. Ahi Shaita Havalei Nazir Al Korcha. We're going to see a proof from this when it comes to Mesechus Gittin. We assume. It seems like Gemara is assuming it's Doraisa, that there's an Isra about the Achar. You have to be a Nazir. You have to accept, because there's a chance you might die any second. So therefore, it forces you to accept Naziris right now. And if you delay taking a Naziris, you're over about the Achar. Midi, where do we find an example? It's the Midi Dahava, Omer Leisha, Reza Gitech, Sha'achas Kodem Misasi, Samizachas Gitech. I'm giving this get 1 minute before I die. So, Asur Lecha B'Truma Miyad, if she's married to a Kohen, and she's allowed to eat Truma, she's the Israeli, she's married to a Kohen, the only reason that Truma is she's married to the Kohen, we assume that the Gerushin takes place the next second because he might die any second, and that'll be Sha'achas, like 1 second before the death. And therefore, we have to assume already that he's going to die, and therefore she's usher in Truma. We're worried, it's a suffix, he might die. How can I'm out there having Nazir Darmina Dilma Hashta Mayas? Here also, you're not a Nazir, but you have the Chiyuv to accept upon yourself Nazirus, because we don't want you to violate this concept of Loi Pater Min Ha'olam, leave departing this world without being a Nazir. So therefore, you're not a Nazir yet, but you're chayiv to accept upon yourself a Nazirus. And therefore, the rights are about the Akar, so long as you haven't accepted the Nazirus upon yourself. That's the conclusion of today's shir. Stay tuned for Ian Ben Sion, where I answer a question I talked about in today's shir. If you did not listen to today's shir, go back and listen. But no, I'm going to explain why the Gemara on Daf Gimel Mid Aleph seemingly darshans from Nazir LaHazir that not just Yodos Naziros, but also Kinuya Naziros. Why need a drasha for that? The Gemara said on the top of Gimel Mid Aleph, that's a Svara Midoraisa. That's logically we would know that. We don't need a drasha from that. Stay tuned for the answer. Ian with Ben Sion coming up next.